Alright guys, so those of you that make it to the end, or if you end up skipping forward, we're going to do a minute silence at the end for a couple of the lads that we're going to be talking about throughout this episode. And after the minute silence, I'm going to give you a little snippet of a story from one of the courses that we talk about, just because it's a very funny, dirty little story, and it makes me laugh, and it doesn't make civilians laugh, which makes it even funnier. So I want to talk about courses, but it's easy. I didn't want to talk about all the courses because you're not going to want to sit and listen to me gob off about a radio course that you go on, because it's not very interesting. So I chose two courses for this time period, around 2010, 2011, which is kind of where we left off-ish on episode 3 when I said about joining battalion. So I'd been in battalion a couple of years by then, 3 years or so, 3-4 years, and so I've chosen these courses just because they're interesting, and I met two guys, the two guys that I served with on this course that we're going to speak about, we'll do the minute silence for at the end, that'll cover. So when you're in the military, you get to go on so many courses, there's so many opportunities, incredible opportunities that the military give us that we maybe at the time take for granted, but I think looking back, going on courses is part of the thing that makes you such an incredibly employable person when you do leave the military. We talk about our transferable skills and what we can bring to the party when we do leave the army, and I think sometimes when I was writing my CV or something when I left, I kind of sat and thought, fuck, I can't put down a weapons course and stuff, because it kind of felt like it's just not relevant, and they always said don't put down these kind of courses. But for me, I've kind of looked at it in a different picture, because I felt like we go on so many courses and you learn so many different subjects across such a wide variety, and you've got the ability to learn that. And that's not easy to do, especially when it comes to having to learn it in such a serious situation. It's not like you can learn it and forget it. You learn it and then you have to continue to learn it in more and more depth, especially as you go up the ranks. And most of the subjects in the military that you do learn are so vital and so important, because they're either going to save, they might save your life or save someone else's life. So they're important subjects, and I think when we do leave the military, it's not just what we can bring to the party skill-wise, but I think when we go and join any kind of company, our ability to then learn that skill and really elevate ourselves within whatever industry you choose, we have the ability to do so. And I think we underestimate ourselves when it comes to getting a job on the outside. It's easy for us to get a job because I think we are so employable. The only issue is that it's hard to find a job that you completely enjoy with passion every day as you did the military, just simply because it doesn't give you things like courses. We don't often go away when we're in civilian streets through work. It's not often they come up to you and say, I'm going to send you on a course, or I don't think I've ever been told by a civilian that they're going to send me skiing for a couple of weeks with my mates. And I think we take that for granted sometimes. But when I first signed up to the battalion, I tried to stick my hand up for as many courses as I could, and you've got to be careful when you do that, because there's always enough of your old jokes. But I did get told when I was in training that a squeaking wheel will eventually get greased, and if you want to go on a course, you just have to keep asking and asking and asking, and eventually your 2IC will get fed up with your asking, and he'll put you on the course. With platoon sergeant will end up putting you on the course. But when I turned up to battalion, you look at support companies. You've got a support company, which is like where your assets, where your fire support is, pretty much. You've got your rifle companies, you've got your support company, and then you've got your headquarters company. And support companies full of your senior guys, your snipers, your mortars, your javelin platoon, your machine gun platoon, and they're just more senior guys. And I enjoyed shooting so much when I first joined the army, because I'd never done anything like it. I loved shooting, and I was a really good shot after those first few years in the battalion. So around 2010, ended up going, 2010, I think went down to do sniper part 1s. And the reason why I say part 1s is because sniper courses is put into 2 parts, and if you don't do both parts, you're not actually classed as a sniper. Which is one point that I wanted to raise, because I feel like every civilian that you meet, and every time they say, oh yeah, I had a friend in the army, there was always a sniper. Now, in the military, snipers tend to be the top 5%, the top 5% of your battalion, top 5% best soldiers, and for good reason. But I just don't know how all civilians have always met all the top 5% of the infantry, or all top 5% of the army, because not everyone does part 2s. It's very hard, very low set pass rate as well. So you do your part 1s, which is like where they teach you how to shoot, and you pass that first, and then after you pass your shooting side of life, then maybe you'll go on to part 2s if your battalion thinks you're good enough. And then after that, you're then classed as a badge sniper. So I done my part 1 course, but I never went down and done my part 2s because I always wanted to be part of a rifle company, and as much as I wanted to go across the sniper platoon, I just never went down and done it. But so 2010, me and Tom Lake, Private Tom Lake, we got sent down from B Company to go and do our part 1s. And once you do your part 1s, if you don't end up going to sniper platoon, we was just pre-tour this was, so if you didn't go down and do sniper platoon, then you was going to get given the sharpshooter rifle for tour, which was the L129 Alpha, or something like this, around that, don't hold me to it. So we went down and done that, and because our battalion was having a bit of a shuffle around, our recce platoon and our sniper platoon, we had maybe like 3 guys that were going down for sniper platoon, that were now in sniper platoon, and we had the new sniper platoon sergeant, Spunky. And Spunky was I think he said it. He's a really nice guy, great bloke. But as any platoon sergeant, especially for those blokes back in those days, they'd had those back in those days. Listen to me, the guys with that experience, you know, the early tele guys and stuff. They're scary blokes, right? They're not, especially when you're a young 19-year-old lad, and you always used to get fucking digs. They'd come in just slightly into your personal space, and then you'd always just be on that edge, just waiting for like a dig to your ribs or something, not sandwich, douche, just waiting for it, you know. But so the first part of sniper course is you put your part 1s. It's done. The first part of that course is done down in Purbright, down in the south of England, where they teach you the theory of shooting. So that's where you learn about like you test your weapon system. You do like the velocity check of your rifle. The velocity of every rifle is different, and depending on your velocity bracket, you then go down, and that will change what your clicks will be for the wind and anything like that. So that's when you learn about your sights and the actual weapon itself. You learn the L115A3, the 338.338 of an inch, 8.59 mil, beautiful weapon. I never actually got one for tour. I actually got given the L96 for tour for some reason. I'm guessing they fucking ran out or something, maybe. But anyway, yeah, so down in Purbright, learning the theory of shooting pretty much. And one day we were making our ghillie suits in the room. So everyone sat around and like it's battle accommodation, battle camp accommodation, you know. So you got like 20 beds per room or whatever. Everyone just sat on their chair next to their bed making their ghillie suits, like glue guns or whatever. And there's shit going around the room, you know, like shit banter going around the room. And then blokes started like obviously scuffling and stuff like this. But obviously Spunky's a fucking strong bloke, and I'm only 19 years old, so I ain't after that smoke. I'm not after that. I don't want that. But Tom at the time, Tom was fucking, must have been 28 years old at the time, like 2010, something like this. He must have been 28 years old, so only now at this age do I realise that how when you're 19 and you think you're big and strong or whatever, you're really not. You're fucking tiny, and you don't really understand like old man strength until as you get older and older and older, and you think, oh yeah, okay, you really are small when you're that age. But so yeah, Tom probably had old man strength, but I didn't want that smoke from Spunky. But Tom was more than willing to take it, obviously, just because he'd probably been around the block by the time you're 28 years old, and. So Spunky and Tom were scuffling in their room, and I'll do Spunky a favour and save him some face and just say it was a draw. But it was, I don't know if it was a draw or not, but it was a funny one. Sorry, it was a bug over there. So yeah, when you get down there, you got to pass your shoots, you do different TMAs, like different rifle shoots. And you have to pass each one, and if you don't pass them, if you fail one, you'll get a retest. If you fail it, then you get sent home, you get RTU'd, like return to your unit. And once you've done X amount of shoots, then you get sent to, we then jump on the transport and go to Wales, down to Brecon. And if you haven't been to Brecon, it's like it's terrible weather. You get all 4 seasons in one day. It will piss it down, snow, sunny, windy. And when you do, so you go up there for your final shoots, and it's at the very top of a massive valley in the mountains. So you're shooting across a valley in the mountains, and the final shoot design is you'll all be on the firing point. You're ready to go, like 10 at a time or 8 at a time or whatever it was, and they'll call you onto the firing point. You go down, and you'll get like 10 minutes to sketch all the landing to your front, and then they'll say, time's up, targets will go up, and you number off the targets, and you have to get your distance, get your clicks for your distance, and then you don't take your wins because you're not taking your shot yet. So then once you've all done that, you get like a couple of minutes to do that, and then they say time's up, and then you go straight into it, and they'll say like lane 6, target 8, firing in 10, 9, 8, and then you gotta check your sketch, get your distance, do your clicks, take your shot, and if you miss that first shot, then they'll say, if you hit it, you get hit, and then you'll go next lane, call it a random lane number, 10, 9, but if you miss, it'll be miss, and then you go 5, 4, 3, so you only get 5 seconds to take your second shot. It's a fucking hell of an experience, really, really, really cool. So one of my favourite courses that I got to do in the military. Really, really, really hard. It's quite a low pass rate. On your first shot, you get something called a Brucey bonus, because your cold bore shot, your rifle's cold and it's not hot. So if you can get your first shot on target, like at a distance, and it's either a fluke or a good shot, you know. But yeah, so one of my instructor on that course was an old bootneck, and he was talking to me when we first joined it, and he was saying how he was on the invasion of Iraq, so he was on like Telek 1, and he was saying how like the only downside to being a sniper is that you can't put a bayonet on the end of your rifle. And he was telling us some horrendous war stories, you know, from Iraq. Those blokes definitely experienced some proper war fighting, proper battle fighting. And but one of the other instructors on the course was Ben Stoughton, and he was a full screw from my battalion. And he ended up actually getting blown up on tour as well, and he lost both his legs, same as Jay. So that was Ben and Tom from that course that we but you know, got hit on tour. And if you want to follow Ben on, Ben's on social media. If you want to follow him, his thing is the Amputee Angler, at the Amputee Angler. If you're into fishing, he does fishing. Jump on, give him a follow, and follow his story. You know, I think he's documenting his fishing trips and stuff like this. So that was Sniper Part 1s. You know, loved it, passed it. It was a really good course. Never went down and done Part 2s, but if you're a civilian and one of your friends tells you he was a sniper, ask him if he'd done Part 2s, and he probably didn't even do Part 1s, to be honest with you, but we'll see. And then the second course I was going to talk about was going down on to get my Lance Corporal. So it was just before a tour that I went, and I'll talk about like that part in another video, but when you do your Lance Corporal course, you go down to Brecon, and I wanted to talk about this one because it's a big course that you do. It was a massive step for me, especially before tour, but I met a lad from our 2nd Battalion. So when you go on courses, you get to actually mix with other regiments, other units, and it's fucking decent. But our 2nd Battalion, so our 1st Battalion recruited from the same areas as our 2nd Battalion, but for some reason our 2nd Battalion were fucking geezers, lad. And it was the first time I really got to work with them, and it was, it was decent, really enjoyed it, loved it. But I met a couple of decent lads from our 2nd Battalion. One of them was Annett, and unfortunately Ash committed suicide last year in February. So that's why we're going to do our minute silence at the end. He actually came top student. I think it was him and Tim Jones, and Tim Jones actually got hit in the same time that Tom got blown up, and he got hit pretty hard. So both of them two got hit in the same patrol, and then Annett obviously later had his own struggles. We'll do a minute silence at the end for them anyway. So FTCC, so Fire Team Commanders course, and as I said, there's mixed cap badges. I think you do 6 weeks exercise, so you're 6 weeks out in the mountains, in the field, in Brecon, living in the hole, and you're doing recce, attack, consistently for the whole 6 weeks. So it's a fucking graft. And in between that, you do your fitness tests. So you're running across your Brecon mountains. You do a 2 miler best effort, 3 miler, 5 miler best effort with all your kit on. At the start of it, you do an 8 miler best effort, not best effort, 8 miler, and at the end of it, you do something called the junior fan dance, which is up a massive hill, down a couple of other hills, and up a couple of others. So I think it's about 24k. Takes you around. Should do it in under Definitely should do it under 5 hours, but it's probably around 4.5 hours with all your kit on as a section. And then we also done the sniper endurance at the end of that course, and it was 30 kilometres, 18.6 miles or something like that. And that was as a platoon, so it was 2 platoons, and that's full platoon kits, that's guns, stretchers, everything. It was terrible. That was probably the most grueling thing I've ever done. And I think it's those kind of, they say like Brecon breeds heroes, you know, breeds leaders, and I believe that really does. Those kind of exercises and those kind of tests, those physical tests, demanding tests, especially at the end of like such an arduous course. And they only get harder as you go into like section commander's battle course and your platoon sergeant's battle course. They only get harder. And after going through like live casualty evacuations, you can really see you kind of when you before you've done a live one, you see and you sense a sense of urgency within your section commanders and the people that your junior NCOs that run your stretcher races. But once you've done a live casualty evacuation, you've been on these courses, and you kind of get a sense for where that sense of urgency comes from, you know. As much as silly as that sounds, it's before you go through it yourself. There's guys that jack, there's guys that will give up, and there's guys that will drop off the stretcher because they're tired or something like this. But once you've done it for real, or once you've done enough of those kind of stretcher races or those kind of physical events where you are completely exerted, and it's a full team effort as a platoon, otherwise you're just going to jacking on your blokes. I think there's those moments that really do make decent soldiers and decent leaders. So you do like your full exercise where you learn how to become, you know, start as your first insight into leading men into battle. You act as a section commander quite a lot, but your main goal is to be able to admin a section. So you're looking after everything from their food to their ammo to their feet, really. And I think it's so important to become a good Lance Corporal. I think if you're a shit Lance Corporal, then you're going to be a shit Corporal, Sergeant, and so on and so on. Being a Lance Corporal is getting the fundamentals absolutely perfect, as best as you can anyway, and that all comes down to knowledge. I think knowledge is such power when you're a Lance Corporal. But the only thing is about when you get your Lance Corporal, for me was, not for me, for everybody, when you get like, promoted in the British Army, you have to change company. So obviously I joined B Company, and that was where all my best friends were. And we wasn't that far out from going on tour. So, and this whole time I'd been picturing going on tour, you know, we had all our sections and everything ready to go. So I had in my mind the men that I was going to deploy with. And then I went down and done my Lance Corporal course, and I got moved to C Company. And C Company was a different company, not in a bad way. It was just so different compared to what B Company was. You know, each company has their own personalities. And I had Sergeant Major Kev Marsh, and I will give it to that man. He had his hands full. You know, the senior Toms were incredible Toms. They were really good, and they knew that was why it was such a hard company. But that's because they knew the score, and I think they knew the score, and they knew what was bullshit and what wasn't bullshit, and sometimes they got vocalised. But what a company! It was a great company, and I'm so glad that I did end up serving with them on tour. You know, I think getting your Lance Corporal is the most important rank to push yourself to get. It's quite scary to get because you're taking on that responsibility, but you do have to be prepared to as well, because you are stepping up and you are kind of accepting guys' lives into your hands. But it is starting fresh. It's kind of like that whole fitting in again. But the only difference is when you try and fit in as a private, it's like fitting in, not being a shit cunt, not being unhygienic. It's probably like the worst thing you could be as a private, and be unfit. But when you're a Lance Corporal, you just have to be a good soldier, and the blokes will respect you. You can be whatever you want. Just don't be a cunt for no reason, and be a good Lance Corporal. Know your job, know what you got to do, and let the blokes trust you, have the blokes trust your decisions. And the only way to do that is through knowledge and trying to learn as much as you can off whatever section commanders above you inspire you. You know, like I based myself off the likes of my section commanders that I crossed paths with, Ben Powell, Gaz Pamford, Chicken Little. They were all incredible soldiers, and that's who I wanted to be like when I reached that stage in my career. Yeah, I'm going to go into the more about C Company and pre-deployment training in another one. I'll tell a story after this, but we're just going to do a minute silence. If you want to join me, you can join me. But in this minute silence, I'm just going to think about Ash and Tom themselves. Going to think about their loved ones. Going to think about the guys on the ground that day. Going to think about Ash's mates in 2nd Battalion. You know, and just sending all my love and all my wishes, all my strength. Okay, so story. We was on one of those courses. I'm not going to say which one because no names needed. Yeah, I was on the Lance Corporal course, and the battle accommodation that you stay in when you're there, there's bunk beds, and there's probably like 20 bunk beds in a room. So there's a lot of blokes in one room, and because you're just outside of Cardiff, lots of blokes go out on the piss. Now 2 blokes come back from the piss, and they was both in their room, and one bloke caught the other bloke. So he turned on the laminator. A laminator where you put paper in, laminate a piece of paper so when it gets wet it doesn't break. But so he's turned the laminator on, waited for it to get hot. Took a laminating sheet out and he shit inside the laminating sheet and then put it through the laminator to try and laminate a piece of shit. Because it's boiling hot, you can imagine the smell of it. And then his mate caught him doing it as he walked in the room, laminating a piece of shit. And I've tried to tell that story quite a few times in front of civilians and none of them laugh, but for me it's fucking hilarious story. Catching a bloke laminating a piece of shit and the lad probably got kids at home. At least doing that kind of thing. Oh, it's very funny. Yeah, thank you very much guys. See you later.